Hello and welcome to a recording and streaming with Jitsi Meet video tutorial. Jitsi Meet is a platform for online conferences. It's free and open source and has a lot of different features. These are some of the main components of a typical Jitsi Meet platform. Today we'll be focusing on the recording and streaming component. It is called Jibri. Jibri can save the conference in a video file or stream it over the internet. Technically, Jibri can be considered a participant in the conference. Unlike the other real participants, it doesn't contribute to the conference and doesn't send video or audio. The system recognizes Jibri and marks it as a special participant that has no thumbnail, no video and audio. When Jibri joins in and starts or stops the recording, everyone gets a notification. Jibri connects to the XMPP server, Prosody, by default. Unlike the other parts of the platform like Gkofo or Video Bridge, it doesn't connect as an XMPP component, but just joins a special XMPP chat room where all the requests for recording and Jibri availability statuses are shared. This makes adding additional Jibri servers easier and faster because joining the multi-user conference text room doesn't require XMPP components reconfiguration or reloading. So you can have many Jibri servers. In fact, as each Jibri process can record only one Jitsi Meet conference, and each process has to be on a separate server, this means that if you want to record more than one Jitsi Meet conference at the same time, you'll need to have the corresponding number of Jibri servers running. In that case, you can have a pool of Jibri servers waiting for recording or streaming requests. Or you can prepare scripts to spin up new Jibri servers on demand, so that there is always at least one ready for usage, and shut them down one by one when the load decreases. There is a second setup possible. Each Jibri service can be configured to join in and listen to serve multiple Jitsi Meet installations. This way, it will be ready to start whenever one of these platforms requests its services. Both approaches have their own advantages, and also you can mix them if needed, depending on your cloud and/or hardware availability. Like most of the internal communication in Jitsi Meet platform, the recording functionality is controlled through XMPP. Gkofo and all the Jibris are in a muck room in Prosody. Jibri reports its availability and Gkofo knows if right now there is a Jibri that can be used. When a request from a room comes and Jibri is available, the recording can be started. But when it starts, Jibri is marked as busy, and if there is a request from another room, nothing can be done, unless there is another Jibri available. So if you keep the number of your Jibris always equal to the number of current recordings or streamings plus 1, you'll have the functionality available all the time. Of course, you have to take into account the time needed to start a new server. If it takes too long to provision it, then better keep 2 or more extra instead of just 1. It all depends also on the load, how frequent the requests and how long the recordings are. So you see, there will be a lot of room for servers optimization. Now let's go on and configure our Jitsi Meet instance for recording and streaming functionality by adding a Jibri machine. We already have 2 virtual servers with Ubuntu 16.04, Zinio Xeros LTS. We use the server edition. On the first one, we have installed Jitsi Meet as it comes by default with the Debian installation packages distributed by the Jitsi upstream. This server has static public IP and the DNS name pointing at it. On the second server we also have Ubuntu 16.04. It's a clean install. The server is with 4 GB of RAM and 2 CPU cores at 2.2 GHz. It could run with 2 GB of RAM, but we choose to be on the safe side. Unlike the Jitsi Meet server, On the Jibri one, it's not the network bandwidth that is the critical resource, but the CPU and RAM. We can use SSH on both servers. On the main server, the following changes in the Prosody XMPP server will be needed. Step number 1. We'll add the internal MUC component where Jibri will join and publish its status, and the recorder virtual host, where it will connect as a special participant, so that it is treated differently by the platform. Step number 2 will be to add the users that Jibri will use to make these connections to Prosody. For the first step, we'll use the config file for the domain name of the installation. We reload the Prosody with the new config. For the second step, we'll use the prosodyctl command to create the users. In Gcofo, we add a configuration to point it to the XMPP room where Jibri can be found. The room name is Jibri Brewery, pun intended. Jibri, in most Balkan languages, means fruit mark or pumice. And we'll restart Gcofo. In Jitsi Meet config file, we enable file recording and or live streaming options and also set up the name of the hidden domain where a Jibri participant connects. You may check also the interfaceconfig.js file to be sure that the buttons recording and live streaming are not disabled. Here is the recording and the live streaming entry. Now we switch to the second server. We update the package lists. We need to install the ALSA Loop sound module, SND a loop. In Ubuntu, it is in the package Linux Image Extra Virtual. As you see, there is a difference between the version of this package and the version of the current running Linux kernel. We are running this version, and the package, both the dependency, this version of it installed a new kernel. So, to have a matching kernel version and to be able to load the module, now we will reboot the machine. Now we are running the newer version. Now the versions of the kernel and the modules we installed match, so we can load the module. If you get an error for missing module here, most probably you have a versions mismatch. That's why we reboot it. Now let's check if the module is loaded. Here it is, and we'll make it automatically load at startup. We need to install latest Google Chrome. Then we install latest Chrome driver. This is a zip file, and we don't have unzip, so we have to install it. We unzip it in user local bin, and then we can delete the downloaded file. Now we also need to add the Jitsi repository. And then install Jibri itself. Last part is to configure the newly installed Jibri. In the file etc jitsi jibri config.json, there are several important lines. The recording directory will be where the files are stored. It needs to exist and be writable by the Jibri user. In XMPP environments, you have to set up at least one Jitsi Meet platform that this Jibri will connect to. If you wish to point it to multiple Jitsi Meets, just add more XMPP environments in the array. We need to remember to create the directory for the recordings. And we also need to change the ownership of this folder. Then we restart Jibri. If you add additional Jibri servers, install and configure them the same way. Just remember to give them different nicknames for XMPP, so there are no conflicts and GCOFO distinguishes them. Now let's make a quick test. Open a browser and load a room. You see the two buttons, the two options, streaming and recording. To stream to YouTube, you just need to enter your channel livestream key. You can find and set up this in your YouTube Creator Studio dashboard. For local file recording, just press the button. And we're live. When we want to stop the recording, we just use the menu. So, now let's find the file. Here it is. The name of the conference and the date and time. And now let's download and play it, just to be sure everything is okay. Now you can record your video chats and stream your meetings to all the users that YouTube servers can take. All you needed to do was to configure Prosody to have an internal mug room, then to add the special virtual host for the recorder participant and to create the Jibri Prosody users. Then in GCOFO you had to tell it in which XMPP room to listen for Jibri. And in Meet you enabled the UI functionalities for recording and/or streaming. Each Jibri server gets Chrome, Chrome driver and Jibri itself installed, and also the ALSA Loop kernel module installed and loaded. You can have more than one Jibri server. The configuration allows one Jibri to wait for requests from multiple Jitsi Meets and one Jitsi Meet to have a pool of multiple Jibris to choose from. Thanks for watching. Take care.